Hi, class. Today we'll be talking about grade perception. I'll be covering 5 abstracts of work focusing on grade perception, self efficacy, and metacognition. First, let's start off with the definition of grade perception. Grade perception is students being able to assess themselves on their academic performance. So, the first abstract I will be covering is called Gender Differences in Self Perception and Academic Outcomes, a study of African American high school students by Gina Saunders. This was a recent study back in 2014. Basically, they discussed the difference between males and females. They found in their study, they did a study of 1,200 students, evenly male and female, and they found out to be that females have a higher rate at graduating high school and continuing on to college. So they found a percentage of 56 of females being able to graduate and compared to 43 males being able to graduate on time. So this study, like I said, took 1,200 students. The dependent variable was their GPA. So mostly they focused on their self-esteem and their strengths and weaknesses throughout the experiment. It was all about how they, based on how they think about their performance. But then, as the study went on, they found that there was other factors that played in their grade perception, such as disparities. Being that they're African American, there are minorities. So the disparities were low income could be an issue and behavior. So it took effect on how the studies were brought about in that first abstract. In the next abstract, it was covered on mostly motivation and how students would feel versus a class that's being graded to a class that's not being graded. So for this abstract, it is called "To Grade or to Not Grade: Students' Perceptions of Effects of Grading a Course in Work Integrated Learning" by Gregory Redden. So for this abstract, like stated in the title, is basically focusing on the grading system and how it affects students. As the experiment went on, they put some students in a grading class and some students in a non-grading class. Focused on motivation. So basically, the students, after doing the research, the students basically found themselves not wanting to even pay attention in class or focus on what was being taught if it was not being graded. And that's understandable. A lot of children tend to think that way, that if a class is not being graded, why are you here? So it changed their motivation level and their grade perception. But the grading course versus the non-grading course had significant positive effects. It helped on students have a sense of achievement and overall enjoyment of the course. And it briefly described how students tend students were in this experiment, and with them not knowing that it was a non-graded course, they said they would never paid attention. So just that easily of changing the grading system and how it works can change a student's whole perspective on how they should react in the class, which results in their grade perception. For the third abstract, this third abstract was based on confidence. So this is more about how self-efficiency. And self-efficiency is basically one's belief to believe that they will be able to succeed in specific situations or accomplish a task. So it's basically dealing with confidence. So for this one, it related to abilities, personality, and metacognition. And as I was reading, they had this very interesting quote that says, who know more about how they know." Sounds a bit confusing, right? The the how much you know relates to the confidence, and the know relates to the performance accuracy. And basically, that that article, Confidence in Cognitive Test Performance by Lazar Stankov, it showed how people show how not people show how students tend to be more different, focusing on the individual aspect of the study, not so for a general idea. Not even men and women, they took it deeper, as into ethnicity. They looked at numerous factors on the confidence and cognitive test performance. They took numerous factors such as race, ethnicity, and so forth. And with that, they realized it affects their GPAs and how they think about school, how they think about the grading system, and all these things, and scores and such of that nature. So, with that being said, their experiment just took to a whole new level. They didn't realize there were so many aspects as they kept going. So it was a lot of dependent variables based on the independent variable, which was the confidence. For the fourth abstract, this one was called "The Role of Self-Efficacy and Reading Achievement of Young Children in Urban Schools." So with this explains self-efficacy, which we went over. The one's ability to think, how they may achieve. So when you have a low self-efficacy, it basically means you don't have the confidence. You don't think that you will be able to achieve this task. So how you perceive yourself is how you come out, which also relates to grade perception. So for this one, this study actually focused on younger children. They realized that they did a study between reading and self-efficacy. But later on in their study, they realized that it was a outside factor that they could connect it with, and it basically correlated to the study. And they felt that the social workers in the school for very young children impacted their academic success. So, being that the very young children are vulnerable and that social workers need to be more involved, and it's so much things happening when children are very young in elementary school. So they was trying to figure out the different the different concept of self-efficacy and self-concept within different age groups. So they felt like social workers were more the reason for their academic success as children in urban schools. For the fifth abstract, which is elementary students' metacognition processes and post-performance collaboration on mathematical problem-solving tasks by Trinidad Garcia. This study showed how it was based on math, and it showed on how it was basically relating to the last study about confidence. So with this one, it basically looked at children and how they perceived how they looked at a math problem and say, "Oh, hey, I don't think I can do this. I hate math." These type of negative thoughts, or some had positive thoughts, and then when they did the math problem, they lost their self-esteem, their academic self-esteem. And then others who were originally having bad thoughts or negative connotations to the math problem, they actually did good, and some actually stayed the same. Some felt as if they did bad and they performed bad. And basically, this study was mixed. It showed self-evaluation biases can be corrected, because once you throw on the energy of not being able to complete a simple math problem, it reflects on the student's self-esteem and the student's work. So for this particular study, they were basically focusing on how confident children feel about doing math. And it was the children who put their self-efficacy on themselves, whether high or low, and how they performed and how it affects their work. With all these studies in general based on grade perception, you can find numerous research on how just simple factors such as race, ethnicity, and even social workers play a role in how we perceive grades. And it generally it's generally more research out there, I believe, that can be done. There's so much factors. Like, it's such a broad topic that it expands on more than one. Like in the article for focusing specifically on African American students, they found about disparities such as low income. Some high school students with just one parent, and how can that affect their academic performance. So it's a lot out there about grade perception that I didn't even know about, and it's so surprising. This is my video on grade perception. Thank you for watching.